Hey, cunt. Oh, how nice to see you, degenerate. Here's a thought. Can you actually upload for once? I even have an idea for you. Pranking retirement home with chlorine, not clickbait. Can you try suggesting a video that's feasible? Report on Kobe Bryant's comedically ironic death. By the time I'd finished that video, the topic would already be stale. Besides, I already covered it on my second channel as a shitpost. Well, I really don't have any more ideas. I'll allow you to come up with them on your own. Wait, what's that? Oh, it's the chlorine. I'm gonna gas YouTube HQ. I wouldn't waste it on a building full of boomers. Wait, YouTube HQ. YouTube. Yeah, YouTube is always doing dumb shit. I could catalog every issue that currently plagues YouTube. Greetings and salutations, fellow disappointments. It's me, Phantomation. Strangling myself as always. And also as always, I'm super late to fucking upload. So what's new? Nothing in this video. That shit's as old as February, when I first wrote the goddamn script. It truly shows that you don't need to be topical on YouTube. So what'll I be talking about anyways? I'm gonna be referencing and reciting every problem that YouTube has as a site to date. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I'm only saying all of this stuff so I can fill time between my introduction channel slide and my introduction topic slide. You know this, I know this, we know this. But I'm just gonna fix this while I'm at it.
I love little girls, they make me feel so good. I love little girls.
Matt Watson, otherwise known as Matt's What It Is, totally uncreative, and or a fuckload of alternate Reddit accounts, launched a campaign a little over a year ago called YouTube Wake Up. YouTube Wake Up, of course, started from a little video Matt uploaded called YouTube is facilitating the sexual exploitation of children, and it's being monetized.
And then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start contacting McDonald's and things like that. If you go to my video, YouTube is facilitating the sexual exploitation of children. In the description, I've included all the social media contact information for every brand that appears in my video. YouTubers are going to suffer. Awesome.
So Matt just so happened to stumble into a pedophilic ring of YouTube videos on the site, and his first instinct is, let me jeopardize the wallets of innocent YouTubers that have nothing to do with this. Also, telling specific advertisers you saw on those videos to drop out is dumb for a completely different reason. I'll cover that reason in a separate segment of this video, so just you wait. He also keeps calling this rabbit hole a wormhole throughout the entire video, but I guess you shouldn't expect a man who sexually coerced preteen girls from the inside of his car to know his holes very well.
Yeah, my guy, that's a child. Yeah, that's a child, huh?
Matt Watson spawned an entire adpocalypse too because of this shit. You should see the entire list of advertisers that temporarily pulled out of YouTube because of this shit in 2019. In his entire video and all those streams he did, he kept lingering on the point of, YouTube isn't doing anything, when they absolutely were doing something. In more than a third of the videos he showed, the comment sections were completely removed. Although I do hope YouTube archived all those comments somewhere, because deleting incriminating evidence of real pedophiles is not a very bright decision. But Phantom, deleting those comments was for the emotional safety of those children. Yeah, well fuck the children. I think all Matt really did with these videos long term was expose himself as a predator.
Where everybody knows your name.
Matt Watson, if you somehow see this, I hope your children get SIDS. Leave your own pedophilic timestamp in the comments below.
Is the plain situation, there's no negotiation with the fellas at the freaking FCC.
In 1998, Congress passed the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, known as COPPA, a federal law that protects the privacy of children on the internet under the age of 13. In and of itself, this idea is not bad, but the way it's being implemented into YouTube is fucking retarded. First of all, YouTube has always followed COPPA's guidelines because YouTube has always been a 13+ site. When YouTube noticed that children were using the platform and lying about their age on the site, they invented YouTube Kids to counteract that problem. Now, I admit there are some problems with YouTube Kids. A lot of problems. A fuckload of problems. But it solves the issue of children on YouTube. The problem arises with some quotes from YouTube saying that the YouTube platform is really popular with children, and they referenced age ratings under the age of 13. When COPPA was investigating YouTube sometime after Matt Watson's video, they stumbled across these quotes. Okay, now YouTube isn't retarded. Well... Okay, now YouTube wasn't always retarded, and I'm assuming most of these quotes are pre-2014. Which would be before YouTube started its downward spiral. YouTube knows that children abuse the site's rules to watch videos on the platform. It's inevitable. Any human being who doesn't think that would happen is a complete homunculus. There's no foolproof way of preventing these accounts from existing. YouTube, by making these quotes, is just being honest. And keep in mind that these quotes are from YouTube's representatives when they've spoken to advertisers. YouTube noticed a practically unfixable problem, and they noticed that many companies like pandering to the youth. Mentioning that YouTube is popular with children was a smart business decision at the time, because YouTube saw a defect and turned it into a profit, as you can always. Now COPPA's coming after YouTube for knowing that children were using the YouTube main site and not doing anything about it. And as I've expressed before, a person with 2 brain cells could figure out that children will always lie about their age on the internet. But COPPA still fined YouTube $170 million for supposedly violating COPPA's guidelines.
Well, now that COPPA has been implemented into YouTube, what are they doing? Why are you making such a big deal out of this?
Well, you see, according to COPPA's rules, you either have to label your videos as children's content or adult content. And if you mislabel any video, you get a $42,000 fine per video violation. In compliance with COPPA, all children's videos cannot have targeted advertising, because COPPA is afraid of Google collecting information on children. So child-friendly YouTubers are gonna take a huge hit in ad revenue. You might think that only kid-friendly channels will be affected. You'd be wrong. To show you exactly how you're wrong, we need to take a look at what YouTube deems child-friendly content. Intentionally aimed at children includes characters, celebrities, or toys that appeal to children, including animated characters or cartoon figures. Has a predominantly child audience. Contains activities that appeal to children. Now let's go through these one by one. Number 1, intentionally aimed at kids. Well, if a video is aimed at kids, purposefully by the creator, then it's actually kids' content. Contains characters or cartoon figures that appeal to children. Well, a lot of dark, offensive jokes feature juxtaposition. Somebody may make an adult video with adult situations, but Bert and Ernie are in it. How it should have ended. Uses Disney, Marvel, and DC characters in videos that should not be watched by children. Chris Ray Gun has a Fluffy Llama character named Paul, who is a hellspawn that abducts aliens and practices Satanism. And while we're on the topic of juxtaposition, I'd like to introduce a new recurring character. His name is Chester the Radical Islamist Cheetah.
Hey kids, Islam is radical.
Can you give us some words, Chester?
Do you want to be extreme? Well, repeat after me, kids. Allahu Akbar.
Now wasn't that charming? He's gonna appear in many videos. He'll become a fan favorite, I'm sure of it. Has a predominantly child audience. A YouTuber does not control their audience and shouldn't be punished for something that they cannot control. Family Guy was a show made by Seth MacFarlane, which was intended to be an adult series. But instead, due to the piss-poor attempts at humor, it became popular with 4th graders that want to be cool and secretly go to the GTA 5 strip club without their parents' permission. Do you think we should remove the mature rating from Family Guy because its audience is under 13? No! That would be retarded! So if it doesn't apply to television, why are we using that logic with YouTube? It contains activities that appeal to children. This concept is completely nebulous. You can tell that all of these rules are written by boomers that don't understand the internet, but are somehow allowed to police it. Nuance, can you tell me what the hell that is? We can't have gray areas. Everything needs to be black and white. Just like the bathrooms. What do they mean by activities that appeal to children? Going to school might be appealing to children, but they shouldn't be watching Columbine footage. Anything can be interpreted as children's content, and with all of this being done by a bot, the way YouTube solves all of their problems, many misinterpretations will be had.
Sit down, bitch, and move again. I'll beat the shit out of you. Don't make me wake this baby. She don't need to see what I'm about to do. Quit crying, bitch.
YouTube has recently updated its harassment policy, and because of this new update, the Leafy Content Cop has been deleted, which, according to their new policy, would contradict their new policy. But I'll get to that later. According to the new policy, harassment is described as prolonged name-calling or malicious insults based on one's intrinsic attributes. Well, I'm fucked. If somebody says or does something that is name-worthy, I will call them a name. Not to mention that this has fuck all to do with harassment. Somebody said a mean thing to me isn't harassment. I'm actually a strong believer in the fact that verbal harassment and bullying is not actually a real problem. It should only apply to children under the age of 9, animals, or the mentally disabled. If you are none of the above, and you think that verbal bullying is real, you need to stop being a pussy. Another defining characteristic of harassment provided by YouTube is the intent to shame, deceive, or insult a minor. I don't want to be fucking coddled. I like having negative criticism that features insults. I eat that shit up. If a man can't laugh at himself, he's no man at all. Teens shouldn't be coddled. We're not inept. Don't worry too much, though. YouTube does allow some forms of harassment still. It is important to note here that the mention of scripted performances, insults made in the context of scripted satire, stand-up, or music. Videos like mine and many others are scripted, or at least somewhat planned in others' cases. And when we insult somebody in our videos, the purpose is always to be comedic and insult any audience that happens to find our video. This would include the Leafy Content Cop. The Leafy Content Cop was a scripted comedic performance intended to entertain its audience.
Money for nothing and the clicks for free. Money for nothing and clicks for free.
Demonetization, the dumbest problem that should have never existed in the first place. If you produce a video with swearing, controversial topics, or, hell, anything that can make a video entertaining, your video will be automatically deemed inappropriate for advertisers. No ads means no money, and whoops, Pyrocynical still can't buy a car. This all pretty much kicked into gear when PewDiePie said the all-powerful N-word on stream without a pass. At the time, Susan wasn't comfortable bending over in front of her corporate overlords to solve all her problems, so instead she decided to bend over backwards for them. And let me tell you folks, she stuck the landing. These advertisers didn't want to be associated with controversial content, so Susan implemented a new feature called demonetization. If it isn't appropriate for aborted fetuses, it isn't appropriate for YouTube. Restricting ads on controversial content because they don't want to be associated with said content is retarded because it ignores how advertisements work on the internet. If you see a Sargento cheese ad on a Rusty Cage video, nobody watching the video will assume that Sargento endorses Rusty's content. It's not the content of the video that determines the ads placed on said video. It's the viewer of the video that determines the ad that they see before it. Google Ad Services collects data on its users and then presents advertisements to them that they are most likely to click. Every once in a while there are rare cases where a YouTuber can have a specific ad play before their video. I don't know how the fuck you do that, but that's why this re-upload of the song called No Cock Like Horse Cock only has Buckeye Horse Nutrition ads placed before it. It's pretty funny and it makes me chuckle every time I go back to it, but other than this extremely rare case, the viewer determines the ad. For an advertiser to want to make money, which is the goal of having ads, they should allow their ads to be placed on any video. Having advertisements restricted on mature content is retarded because people who watch mature content are typically adults who has money to buy shit that you're selling in an advertisement. Adults! Do you see where the problem is? Demonetization shouldn't exist on a platform built by rational people.
So don't download this song.
Oh boy, have I got a treat for you. You know how when there's a crash or a natural disaster, you just can't look away? It's the same thing with the YouTube copyright system. You just have to watch in awe of such a colossal wreck. In the heyday of YouTube, you could find stolen, re-uploaded content pretty much everywhere. And the Content ID system was invented to prevent this. Now people who broke copyright law can get punished. But the system can't actually tell if the use of copyrighted material is within the bounds of fair use or not. So if a YouTuber is critiquing a song, and they use clips of the song in the critique, the people who own the song can just make all of the revenue from the video that they don't rightfully own. Also, companies can copyright claim any video they want without evidence and reap the revenue from it. If a creator wants to appeal the claim and get their money back, the claimant gets to decide whether or not their own claim was accurate. Super why? Super why? 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 That's like allowing a rapist to decide the length of their own sentence. YouTube's copyright system is completely broken. But to be fair, this seems to be the case with copyright law in general. The song Happy Birthday was written in 1893 and is 127 years old right now. But somehow, some way, it isn't in the public domain. It's owned by Warner Music Group. They receive $5,000 daily in royalties whenever somebody performs the most well-known song in the English fucking language. The YouTube copyright system is as functional as Kobe Bryant's helicopter, but what can you expect from a system based on the most regressive law in Western society? Bots have riddled YouTube ever since conception. We all love to hate them. And as it turns out, the demonetization bots have been suppressing LGBT videos in both monetization and search and discovery. This all happened because YouTube is trying to expand their platform all over the world. Specifically, in Middle Eastern countries where the law is dictated by Islamic principle. The same countries that outlaw homosexuality. I might get a bit of flack for saying this, but the kind of people who would give me flack for this aren't really the people who I want to respect me in the first place. Never cater to Islam, or any other harmful religion for that matter. Now the people I just described would call this statement Islamophobic. I don't even know why we need that word, because we already have the word rational. If you don't have a problem with gays, atheists, and people who eat pork being stoned, hung, thrown off of buildings, and decapitated, then you're fucked in the head. I have a problem with all religions for a multitude of reasons, including the particularly violent ones like Christianity. But although I have problems with Christianity, I don't have the same problems with Islam. Because religions like Christianity have retcons, the New Testament. But Islam doesn't have a retcon. All of the Quran's flaws are front and center. I also don't have the same problems with Christianity because it typically thrives in first world countries with laws against violence, and usually laws that separate church from state as well. So nobody's religion or lack thereof can be seen as correct or incorrect under the eyes of the law, and the acts of religious extremists cannot be endorsed in court. Islamic countries are a different story though. Countries in the Middle East are run by a system called Sharia law. Under Sharia law, a captive in jihad may be executed, enslaved, or ransomed off for money. Meaning if you aren't a Muslim, you can be kidnapped, enslaved, and raped in the name of jihad. I may hate all religions equally, but man, Islam takes the fucking cake.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Are you spreading anti-Islamic propaganda? Infidel, infidel, off with your head!
This is the typical reaction you'll get from a Muslim when they encounter a rational atheist like myself.
But Phantom, Islam is a religion of peace.
Well then, if we're gonna follow that logic, Hitler did nothing wrong and 9/11 wasn't an inside job. You in particularly disgust me.
I'm so alone.
Is YouTube doomed? No. It may have a shit ton of problems that seem to increase every year, but I don't think it's doomed. It holds historical value as a site. YouTube is like the Coca-Cola of the internet. They've both been around for their respective Wild West ages, and they'll both be enjoyed for generations to come after their golden ages. But these problems with YouTube are severe, and they still need to be addressed. Kinda like how Coca-Cola used to have cocaine in it. But I also think that YouTube can turn itself around and make progress. We just need to get that Progerian mule fired.